Hello everyone. Today we're going to be walking through Podchaser's podcast data plugin for Bubble.io. This plugin allows you to access Podchaser's extensive podcast database so you can do searches and get podcast and episode data and implement that into your project. I'll give you an example of one of the outputs and then we'll dive into how you can easily get it set up yourself. So the action we're using here is search for podcast. We can provide a search term. I'm going to go ahead and say ear biscuits, click search, and the first result we get here is the Ear Biscuits podcast with Rhett and Link. We can try another one here. Rest is History podcast, search for that. And we got the title, thumbnail, description, as well as the RSS feed. Now there's a lot of other data available to us. This is just what's displayed, but let's go ahead and show you how you can get this set up from scratch. The very first thing you're going to want to do is sign up for a free Podchaser account. You can do that right here. And once you go through their account setup process, you'll end up on a page like this. Go ahead and click here to your account settings, API, and you're going to generate your free token. Upon clicking on that, you're going to fill out this form to register your app, at which point you'll be provided with development client token and production client token. Make sure you copy both of these and store it somewhere. Go ahead and copy the development client token in particular for now. And this is what we're going to paste right here in our plugin. Be sure to add bearer before the token, just like that. Looking at the plugin content, we have the ability to generate a new API token. So that generates a new one of these. We don't need to do that for every call. If we have one already, this lasts for an entire year, I believe. And then we also have search for podcast, which will give us the podcast details, and then get episodes, which we can use the RSS feed URL from the podcast to plug into here to get a list of episodes. So taking a look at our page, how we have it set up here, when we input the search term, we're doing the search for podcast action, simply adding the search term to that, and that provides us with the result, which we're just setting as custom states on this result here. Now we could also do this as a repeating group here. If we set the content type to search for podcast data, and the data source we can get from an external API, search for podcast data, add our search term there, and display the results as part of that. I also want to show you real quick what other data is available for us from this. So if we look at the result of this, we're looking at podcasts, and we're taking the first item, and we have the first item's ID, title, description, RSS URL, web URL, image URL, language, number of episodes, start date, latest episode date, rating count, rating average, review count, and then podcast IDs from a few of the major platforms. If we take a look at our episode data, so get episodes, if we look at the result of that, we have the podcast data again, and then if we click on podcast episodes here, we have another subset of data under that. So we have under each episode the ID, title, description, air date, image URL, audio URL, the episode length, the rating average, rating count, whether it's explicit or not.